Today, I really want to emphasize the significance of developing something like a routing system in your retrieval augmented generation mechanism. I think oftentimes when people approach me to ask me about how to improve their RAG system, it really boils down to somewhat of a churn issue. And once you want to address that, it turns out the best way to do that is to actually look at our routing. And this is because addressing your churn really revolves around tackling the root causes. Whereas every application might suffer from something like issues like poor UX or a lack of clarity in the design, there are really specific things to consider. For Stitch Fix, the company I worked at before, churn is usually caused by poor fitting clothing. It is caused by high prices or mismatched styles. And this really requires us to engage with the users to really figure out these needs. Similarly, for a RAG application, it's really important to figure out what kind of questions people are asking and figuring out if those questions themselves are predictive of any kind of churn metric, in the sense that when you ask questions that you can't answer, they stop using the platform. And I would say these kind of routing capabilities are broken down into two sub-problems. The first problem is identifying the topics of these questions. For example, if you're a marketing tool, maybe people are asking questions about the privacy information or the pricing or the documentations. That is one source of question types in your route. The second one is mostly around the actual search capabilities of your system. For example, if you have embedded all of Wikipedia, it's really easy to answer a question that's, what is the capital of France? But if you didn't build your route correctly or didn't build an index correctly, who made the last edit on the Wikipedia page for France is a question you literally cannot answer. And when you try to answer that, you might get a bunch of bullshit answers. And I think one thing that's really helpful to do is actually go and figure out what those capabilities are. And again, this could be done by doing some kind of topic modeling against the questions people are answering. This might be talking to your domain experts. This might be talking to your users, whatever that is. But you're going to get to a point where you can basically build this grid of different question types and different capabilities. Once you have that table set up, you can effectively just count or classify every question that comes in, and you can use something like Instructor to do that. And then once you do that, ultimately, you get to a place where you understand the distribution of these question types across these different classes. And then now you can go start prioritizing, right? For each of these cells, I'm sure you're going to find that for 20% of these question types, they describe 80% of all the questions. That's usually what happens. On top of that, you're going to get to a point where you realize that some of these random question types and capabilities, you just can't do well. If you embed Wikipedia, you're never going to answer the question, who made these edits? And so by building routes that can detect this question type and then specifically tell the user that you can't answer these questions, that does quite well. For example, at Stitch Fix, if you are trying to find a $4 shoe, we're just not even going to sign you up. And if we don't sign you up, we don't have a churn problem. But if we do sign you up, we're paying to send you clothing, and then you don't buy it, now we're losing money. So it's really important to figure out what kind of questions that you don't want to serve, because that will actually impact your business outcomes in the future. And again, once we actually have these topics, we can go and prioritize what indexes to build. For example, maybe today you say, you know what, we're not going to answer questions on when edits were made. That we didn't even know this was a requirement. But you build this out and you do proper logging and instrumentation, you find out, oh shit, half the people using this tool are the Wikipedia editors, and we really need to figure out how to index this information. So now we can go build in specific indices that allow us to answer these question types, because we know they're useful, because we've built out this routing capability, and because we've built out this classification. And then now we can go in this grid and say, okay, what are the questions that lead to churn? Are we doing them incorrectly? Can we do some evaluation metric that correlates with the churn? Now you're doing some data science. And generally, it's really just about understanding the system's limitations and being able to confidently decline question types, and figuring out also when is it the case that maybe data is out of date. Maybe I want to ask specific questions on Wikipedia for a different language. Maybe we can say, hey, we can't answer this not because we don't know, but because this document does not exist in Estonian. If you want to update the article, go check out this, et cetera, go contribute to the system. That's also super helpful in trying to figure out what's going on. And ultimately, you build out a real search system where you can do the intent classification. You can build these routing. You have your fallbacks. You have warnings, right? You have all these different tools to actually build a product. It stops becoming a RAG application. It just starts becoming a product. And by offering alternative methods of falling back to a no answer, you could say, you know what, we can't answer these questions right now. Fill out the survey if you think this is something we should be doing, please let us know. You can do all these kind of like product-based interventions that make the system feel a lot better. And yeah, I think this is something that like every company can do right now. And I think this is something every company should do right now. Do some topic modeling, ask your users, ask your domain experts, figure out what these routes are. Because improving your RAG system involves identifying and analyzing the incoming question types and the type of capabilities that your search index requires. And being able to prioritize these things based on like frequency and impact is super important. And more importantly, acknowledging and addressing the limitations of the system is not only an insurance policy, but it also makes you feel more trustworthy, right? When you go to someone and say, oh, I can help anybody, it's really hard to figure out what exactly is going on. But if I say, I help these specific people that look just like you, and I don't help these other people because they're not my clients, they're not my strengths, you actually build way more trust with your users. And so just being able to address the limitations allows you to continually refine the technology and the strategies that you need to build a good system. And yeah, that's my little rant.